Hi there, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You meet again with me, Mr. Shahid. In this video, I'm going to share with you bits and bobs about research, especially about writing thesis. I explain this basically for my students, and if you are my student, then please listen to my explanation from the beginning of this video until the end. And if you have any question later on, you can write your question to me in the comment section below. Now, before I begin explaining the concept that I'm going to share with you in this video, let me read you a part that I'm going to explain to all of you through this video. Alright, now talking about writing thesis in the field of English studies, basically, especially if you are students in Indonesia, you will see that there are 5 chapters that you need to write in your thesis. The first chapter is called as Introduction. What is introduction dealing with your research? In this chapter 1, you explained about a few concepts related to, first, background of your research, the background of your research, and the second one is identification of the problem. Some other scholars call that with the term statement of the problem or formulation of the problem. After you identify the problem, you move on to write about your research questions or hypothesis. It depends on the type of your research. If you are going to do qualitative research, then you are going to need to state the research question. Meanwhile, if you're going to do quantitative research, then you need to mention the hypothesis that deal with your research problem. The next part within the introduction chapter is significance of the research. You need to tell your readers what is the significant aspect of your research. I'm going to tell you a bit more about this after this one. And the last part of the introduction is definition of the key terms. Now that is for chapter 1. What about chapter 2? In this chapter 2, we have a literature review. Some scholars term this with the word review of related literature. What will you do in your literature review? I'm going to explain that after this one. And then we move on to chapter 3. It's called research methodology. You need to explain important aspects related to your research methodology. For example, your research method, approach, your technique of data collection that deal with your research instruments, or some other people call it as instrumentation. And you also need to explain technique of data analysis. After you collect the data, you need to state how you're going to analyze the data. Then the conceptual framework. It's the framework of your research concept so that your readers will understand what your research is going to talk about. Some scholars also call it as a research framework, but these two terms basically are different. The former is conceptual framework, while the latter is research framework, depending on which term that you're going to use in your research. And after that, you need to mention your research timeline, but this one is for research proposal. If you have done your research, then you need to state the schedule of your research so that your readers know when you started your research and then when you finished it. Now that is for your thesis. After writing the chapter 3, you need to move on to write chapter 4. in this chapter 4, you need to write findings and discussion. There will be information about your raw data after you collect it with the research instruments, and then you need to display the raw data. And the analysis of the data, you show it in your paper in that chapter 4, so that your lecturer or your research fellows can understand what you have done with your research. And after you show the analysis, you move on to the next one, is the findings. So you show your readers that, okay, this is what I have found through my research. After you state the findings, then you move on to state about the discussion. You need to discuss what have you got with your research, with the intention to discuss with the scholars in your field. You may go on talking about the findings and relate with some of the related theories in your thesis. Then after that, you need to state what are the answers of your research question. You have mentioned that in your chapter 1. If you use qualitative research, then you need to state the research questions. But if you do your research with quantitative research design, then you need to state how is your hypothesis. Is it accepted or rejected? Then, after you write the chapter 4, you need to write chapter 5. What is it to do with your thesis in chapter 5? Chapter 5 talks about the conclusion and suggestion for your readers. In the conclusion part, you need to wrap up what have you found in your research, and then what are some of the key points that you are going to deliver and explain to your readers through your thesis. Meanwhile, for the suggestion part, you need to suggest the next researchers about what they need to do related to your research topic. And you can also address the suggestion for scholars in the field and for academic readers who might be interested with your research findings. And you can also give suggestions for other fellows who would like to adopt or adapt your research methodology. What are some of the interesting things that other researchers or other fellows can find from your research methodology, and they can also expand it. After you write the chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, then you need to write the references. References sections are very important in your thesis. If you do not write the references section, then your readers might not be able to follow the sources that you have used in your research. Alright, now that are my short explanation about how to write thesis in English studies. Well, basically that's a very large and broad conception about writing thesis, but I'm going to explain to you one by one in the next video. Stay tuned from part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Each of the video is going to talk about a different chapter with a bit of examples. Alright, see you then.